So now we've created the basic setup for using delegates, and now I want to go ahead and really put it into practice and to finish this off. So what we have is we have our key event user pressed key, and we want to call all of our enemy events when the user presses the E key. So I'm just going to select my delegate type user pressed key and press Ctrl C on the keyboard to copy that and paste it into here and call that just like a regular function really. That's all we're doing, just calling that like a regular function. And now I'm going to press Ctrl S on the keyboard, and this is going to initiate a problem. When I press play on the toolbar and I press the E key on the keyboard, you will see that immediately we get an error, which is a null reference exception. So I'm going to press stop and return to mono develop. We're getting this null error because here when we press the E key we are calling our delegate type, but our delegate type has not been initialized to any values in particular. We want to associate our delegate type with the onKey event function, and not just with one function for one enemy, but we want it to represent all the onKey event functions for all the enemies, so that when we call the user pressed key, it will call those events for all the enemies in one batch. Now, to do this, to associate this variable here with functions, all we have to do is we can just loop through the enemies and find their onKey functions and assign them to this delegate as though it were a standard variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an enemy array here. We've seen how to do this before. We are building up an array of enemy objects. So an enemy array, and we're going to be searching for object.find objects of type, and we're searching for the type of enemy, like so, and we're going to be returning those as an enemy array in one statement there. And so the next thing I want to do is to loop through all of those enemy types in the array, in the enemy array, and for each of them I want to assign their onKey event function to the user pressed key delegate. So I'm going to highlight that, copy it and paste it into here, and I'm going to use the standard plus equals shorthand notation, and I'm going to be assigning this to the enemy dot onKey event. You will see the onKey event listed for the enemy. So in an accumulation of events, we're going to be adding the onKey event to the user pressed key for the first enemy, adding it for the second enemy, adding it for the third, and in this way this is going to represent an array of functions to call. Now what I'm going to do is press Ctrl S on the keyboard, minimize mono develop, and just clear the console here, and then I'm going to press play on the toolbar. And this time when I press the E key on the keyboard, you will notice we get enemy 01, you press the E key, enemy 02, you press the E key, enemy 03, and so on. That delegate in code now represents all three functions for the enemy objects. So this has been a quick summary on how we can use the powerful feature of delegates to respond to any event that we want.